So, I haven't been making a lot of book videos this year. Haven't actually been making a lot of any videos this year, but that's besides the point. But I think it's funny because I actually have been reading more this year than I have in any year previously. I have read 97 books this year. And my goal is to read 200. Will it happen? I have no idea. But at this point, I have read so many books that I feel like it's the perfect opportunity for me to do the mid-year book freakout tag. This has been around for so long. I honestly don't even remember who came up with this tag, so if you remember, please let me know. But I feel like it's just like one of those ancient tags, you know, like it's been around as long as BookTube has been around. I have so many books that I've read this year, and part of the reason why I actually haven't been doing videos about it on here is because I'm putting them all on Patreon. Patreon is a really awesome community. Quick plug. Part of my thing on Patreon this year is that I'm doing like monthly wrap-ups, and so I do it with like photos and playlists and books and various other things, but that is where I've been sharing all the books that I've been reading. And so when I post, I usually will post pictures of books that I've been reading or quotes from those books. I post all of my reviews for those books, and then I'll also share a screenshot from my reading spreadsheet. So if you want to see what I've been tracking this year, you can definitely see it on Patreon. It's very affordable, but Patreon is a really awesome opportunity because it helps me pay for health insurance. I also share stuff on Goodreads, so if you're keeping up with me on there, you probably know what's going on. Mid-year book freakout tag. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about all the books that I've read. Number one, the best book you've read so far in 2020. I don't anticipate anything topping it. I think this is going to be the best book that I've read all year. It's in my top books of all time. Like, it changed the way I view myself and my life and the world. It's A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. I feel so cliche being like, this book changed me. I cried so hard, but like, it's a little life. I don't know what to tell you. I have a whole video talking about it actually because it is that much. I don't necessarily recommend it. I think you need to be in a very good mental space if you're going to read this book. So don't just like pick it up on a whim. But also, it made me feel seen in a lot of ways, and it's really, really beautiful, and it's all about friendship. It follows the lives of 4 men as they kind of grow up, and it spans over like 20 or 30 years. It's really intense. There's a lot of trigger warnings. You've probably heard about it. If you want to watch my video, that's a really great opportunity to actually know my thoughts. But I cried so hard. It was so good. I still think about it all the time. Number 2. Best sequel you've read so far in 2020. I have 3 answers for this because I want to talk about them. But the first one is the only one that I own, and it is Undercover Bromance by Lyssa Kay Adams. Can we talk about the Romance Book Club? Holy shit. Romance Book Club is a romance series, and each book follows a different couple as they're kind of working through some of their problems or getting to know each other. And this one is such a good sequel. It's amazing. It's probably my favorite book in the series, but that's just because I love Mac and Liv. I love this book so much because it's kind of enemies to lovers. She is kind of grumpy and doesn't want to date him, and he is sunshine, and he really just loves her so much. And if you have not read the Bromance Book Club series, I would highly recommend it. It's set in Nashville. It's just a bunch of himbo jocks trying to read romance books to like win back their women, and it's very heterosexual, so I'm sorry about that, but like, it's just so fun. If you're looking to laugh, if you're looking to cry and smile, like, it's beautiful. I love it so much. Such a good sequel. The next one I want to talk about is Jade War. Oh my God. I finally read Jade City, the Green Moon Saga by Fonda Lee. I feel like everybody has been telling me to read this for years. But truly, Jade War as a sequel is so phenomenal. There's like a lot of stuff that happens in that book because it's spanned over like such a weird time frame. But the ending is really good. I love the second one because you really get to see character development and new dynamics between characters. It's a little bit more gay than the first one. The first one is gay-ish, but the second one definitely is gay. And it's really, really wonderful and fucked up and great. But if you don't know, Jade City is a fantasy series, but it's like Asian fantasy Godfather-ish, something like that. But it's just so good. Fonda Lee is a really incredible writer, and I love all of those characters so much. And the last sequel I want to talk about, I'm actually wearing it. This is a t-shirt that I got for my birthday. You can't really see it, but it's fan art from The Dragon Republic by R.F. Kuang. I finally read The Poppy War. be proud of me. The Poppy War is a military high fantasy series. It is a lot to take in, kind of fucked up on a lot of levels, but the sequel is probably my favorite book in the series, which I feel like I never say that about sequels. But I love that sequel so much because I think you get, it's funny. It's so funny. The second one is really funny, even though it's kind of fucked up and people die. There's death. There's a lot of death and pain and suffering. But I like the second one because you get this new cast of characters and it feels very like found family, and it's funny and it's sweet and it's terrible and it's so dark. But yeah, the second one is just so great. If you haven't picked up the Poppy War, I would definitely recommend you check out the trigger warnings first. But I would recommend it for sure. Number 3, a new release you haven't read yet, but you want to. I feel like this is gonna be kind of a controversial opinion, but it's fine. I really wanna read Better Together by Christine Riccio. You guys know I'm a little bit biased. I am friends with Christine. So like I wanna support her, I really do. But I also know that a lot of people on the internet don't like this book. And so I don't know. I feel like it's a controversial opinion to be like, I want to read Better Together, but I do want to read Better Together. I'm waiting for the library book to come in. This book is Freaky Friday Meets The Parent Trap. It's about divorced family, 2 sisters who have divorced parents. And yeah, I don't know. I want something fun and bubbly, and I feel like that's what Christine gives me. I liked Again But Better. I thought it was fun for what it was. So y'all can just like step off. I'm excited to read this soon. Number 4, most anticipated release for the second half of the year. I have 2 answers. Number 1, A Psalm of Storms and Silence. I think it comes out in November. This is the sequel to A Song of Race and Ruin by Roseanne Brown, New York Times bestseller, amazing book. It is an African fantasy book. It's YA. But the reason that I love this series so much is that it does an excellent job of juxtapositioning fantasy with like mental health. And I feel like we don't see enough of that, like characters in fantasy who have panic attacks and anxiety and stuff like that. And the first one, I don't remember it very well, but I know it ended like kind of wild, and so I'm very curious to see what happens in the second book. I have a feeling it's gonna break my heart, but I'm excited. The act, like my most anticipated, like the arcs are out and I want one kind of book, Jade Legacy by Fonda Lee, the 3rd book in the Greenbone saga. I'm scared, I'm terrified, I have no idea what's gonna happen, but I am pumped and I cannot wait. It comes out at the end of November, beginning of December. And I want it right now. I want it right now. Number 5 is biggest disappointment. And I think this is gonna be disappointing for a lot of people, but I'm sorry, I have to say it. Written in the Stars by Alexandria Bellafleur. So this is a sapphic romance novel. I will say my problem with it is really not, like I don't really have a problem. I think that's what's so important. Like I enjoyed it. I thought it was really great. I think it was a solid like 3.5, 4-star read for me. And it's just my biggest disappointment. Like I don't have a lot of disappointments this year, which is good, but like this is it, you know? I think part of the reason why it was disappointing to me is because my friends who have read it have hyped it up so much, and they spent the whole time being like, this is the new like Casey McQuiston and it's so funny and like blah blah blah, and like the jokes just didn't really hit for me. It's about astrology and I don't really know anything or care about astrology. It is grumpy sunshine, which is really nice. Like I think the romance was probably like my favorite part about it. It is a romance book, but you know what I mean. But like I think I just had trouble connecting with the writing and the jokes and stuff, and I'm such a big jokes person that if the jokes don't necessarily hit, it's not gonna hit for me. So this was my biggest disappointment. I still would recommend it. I think it's a great book. It's just not my fave. So number 6, biggest surprise, Cloud Cuckoo Land by Anthony Doerr. Oh my God. I read an arc of this book from NetGalley, and it was one of those instances where I was like, I don't know, this sounds kind of cool. I'll request it. They gave it to me. And then 2 days later, I was like in the middle of it having a breakdown. If you don't know, Anthony Doerr wrote All the Light We Cannot See. And that book is like critically acclaimed. Everybody loves it. I still haven't read it. But this next book, Cloud Cuckoo Land, is kind of like a meta fiction book. And you know me, I love my meta fiction. I love my story within a story. And this is that. It's story within a story. It follows like 4 or 5 points of view, and all the way from 1400s Constantinople to like the distant future of like 2100, or I don't remember how far off it is, but something like that. And so we follow these characters as they go through their lives, and they're all connected by this one story that all of them know. And so it's really, really fascinating. It says a lot about the human experience and storytelling, and climate change and just like a lot of different things. And it's kind of depressing, but it's also very hopeful. And I cried and I loved it. And it's one of those books that has made it into my favorite books of all time because it's just so beautiful and well done. I don't know. I don't like historical fiction. And so the Constantinople sections were kind of terrifying for me to get through because I was like, I don't like history. I don't. But I really connected with it and I loved it. And I think it's a book that I will definitely be rereading in the future. And I hope everybody reads it when it comes out in September. New favorite author. I have talked about this. I have a video about it, but Olivia freaking Blake. She wrote the Atlas Six. She has a traditionally published book coming out next year under a different pen name. She is the love of my life. Obsessed with her. I know everybody is getting obsessed with the Atlas Six because it was on Book Talk or whatever, but like I found it on Tumblr first. I read it months ago. It's so good. I recommend it to everybody. But I'm so excited as the months go on to get to read more Olivia Blake. She has other like self-published books that I'm hoping to get to. But this one, like this woman, she is just love of my life. I can't wait to see what she does in her career because she's already like such a strong writer. Anyway, newest fictional crush, the only acceptable answer here, Mr. Alex Nelson from People We Meet on Vacation. I read an arc of this in January and it is still like in my top 5 books of the year because it's that funny, that good. Alex Nelson is just me, basically. He's a grumpy, introverted dude who is just so sweet and funny, and I love him so much. He is definitely like the one person that I like have the biggest fictional crush on. I'm obsessed with him. He's so great. If you haven't read this book yet, what are you doing? Number 9 is new favorite character, and the only answer, well, there's two answers. Number 1, Gideon Nav. I finally read Gideon the Ninth by Tamsin Muir. Please, everybody clap for me. It took me way too long. I read both books in this series and I am obsessed with Gideon. I love her so much. She is so wonderful. This is lesbian necromancers in space. You've probably heard about it. You probably have no idea what it's actually about. I couldn't even tell you what it's actually about because it's that confusing. But I love this series because it's like, somehow it's like Tumblr meme speak in sci-fi fantasy in space. Like, I don't know how it works, but it works. But that's Gideon. Gideon is the funniest freaking person ever. And I think the reason why I love her so much is because she's basically a himbo. And I love like beefy people who are like kind of stupid with one brain cell who are funny. It's just so good. I had like a whole breakdown. I was listening to the audiobook in my bathroom when I finished. I don't know why. And I just remember like having a breakdown because it's like, that's the end of this book is just freaking breakdown hours. But literally I love Gideon so much. Cannot stress to you. The other one I really quickly want to touch on is Hilo from the Greenbone Saga. I love Hilo so much. I cannot stress you. He is such a cool person. I just love him. He's so stupid, but he's so great and he's so sweet. I love him. I love Hilo. I hope he survives this next book. I'm scared. Number 10, a book that made you cry. I could do A Little Life. That is an option. But when I finished A Little Life, I was so broken. But I wanted to, like, I had to keep reading because I was doing this reading challenge. And so I was like, crap, what am I going to read? I need something to like get me back into reading. So naturally I picked up a children's picture book because that's what one does. And it is The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse. You've probably seen this book or heard of it. The reason I picked it up is because I was recommended it by Chris Hemsworth on his Instagram ages ago. But this is like truly like a nice, like warm hug. If you're looking for something easy to get through, but you want some comfort and you like, I don't know, it's just perfect. This is a book that I cried to because it's all about friendship and it's beautifully drawn and written and it's just so sweet. And there's so many like amazing quotes in here that I think about all the time. But again, it's all about friendship. I cried. It was great. Definitely recommend. Number 11, a book that made you happy. Isn't It Romantic by Lyssa Kay Adams. Can you sense a theme here? This is the 4th book, the upcoming book. It comes out in July for the Bromance Book Club. It is all about Vlad, aka the Russian. My favorite person. I love him so much. This is like childhood friends to lovers, but it also has like fake marriage, kind of. But is it real? We don't know. And it made me so freaking happy. I think I was actually reading it about the time when our cat died. So I was like highly upset and depressed and I needed some serotonin, and we got the ARC for this book, and oh my God, so good, so good, so good. Number 12, most beautiful book you've bought so far or received this year. I got this book for my birthday. I was at the bookstore with Emily and I saw it on the shelf and I was like, oh my God, like this has been on my wish list for a while. Like I finally get to see it in person. Like I'm just gonna look at it. I don't have any money, but it's here. That's great. And I picked it up and I looked at it and I knew my mistake within about 0.2 seconds, because literally I opened it and she was like, okay. And then she grabbed it out of my hand and was like, I'll buy it for you for your birthday. And I was like, bestie, that's not what I asked. Yeah, I'm super obsessed with it. It's The XX by Ryan Hughes. This came out last year and I saw it in a TikTok and I've been interested in it ever since, because it is one of those really pretentious, ergodic literature books that probably makes no sense, but it's beautiful as hell. Part of why it's so cool is because the author is actually like a graphic designer, and so I believe he like designed the whole thing and with typography and like all this stuff. And I am so stoked to get to read this. I am hoping to read it as soon as possible, next month maybe, but it's like 1,000 pages long and it's about aliens. I think the main thing is so there's a radio telescope that detected a mysterious signal of extraterrestrial origin, a message that may be the first communication from an interstellar civilization. And so we're asking about, like, has humanity made first contact? Is the signal itself a form of alien life? Could it be a threat? How will the people of Earth respond? And so it's about aliens. And I am so excited because this is basic. Like, I feel like I'm always looking for more books like this that are meta and kind of ergodic and pretentious as hell. And so the fact that I like found another one, I feel like I'm like on a quest. And so every time I find one, I'm like, yes. The next question is actually like books that you need to read by the end of the year. So that is one of them. I need to read that by the end of the year. This one I also got, which I think is a strong contender for like prettiest books that I've received. I got this for my birthday. It's The Octonomy by Trevor Allen Fortis. And this is another book that I saw on a TikTok and I was like, I have to have it. And so one of my friends bought it for me for my birthday. I don't know a lot about it. It's very mysterious. If you go on their website, it's just like kind of cultish. I think it's fantasy and it has like sprayed edges and it's really pretty. There's also, it comes with this like an encyclopedia definitionary thing of things. I don't really know what's going on with it, but I would actually I want to read this by the end of the year. I've been trying to read this book for 6 months. I've started the audiobook about 3 times. I started the ebook once. And I finally just was like, fuck it, I'm getting the physical copy because I need to read it. It's The Rune of Kings by Jen Lyons. It's a high fantasy series, kind of like Game of Thrones, except probably better because it's written by a woman and also it is gay as hell. I think it has ace rep in it. It has like reps from like all different things. Like one of the main characters I believe is bisexual. And I truly cannot tell you what it's about because I don't know and it's fantasy and who knows. But I need to read this. It's a friend recommendation and I still haven't read it. So next up is Detransition Baby by Tori Peters. Literally everybody's talking about this book. I was supposed to read it during Pride and I just don't think it's gonna happen. But this is a trans book and it is about a couple who has a baby and somebody also detransitions, hence Detransition Baby. But Emily loves it and a lot of people have been recommending it because of the trans rep and because it just like discusses gender in a very interesting way. And I wanna think about gender. That sounds fun, I guess. So hopefully I'll be picking this up next month when I get the audiobook in from the library, but if not, I'm going to read it by the end of the year, I promise. I'm in the process right now, you guys know, I'm writing a novel. Well, I'm editing a novel, but I'm hoping to be done editing the novel soon so that I can actually write a new novel this year. And so because I've done so much editing in the past year and a half, I am like finally at a place where I'm like, okay, going into this next like novel writing session, like what do I need to do on the front end so I don't have to do all this editing on the back end? What do I need to learn about so that I can become a better writer and I can actually conquer this in a more efficient way? And so in doing that, I found a couple books that I want to read that are nonfiction about writing, but I'm so excited to read them because I love reading writing books. So the first one is Structuring Your Novel by K.M. Weiland, Essential Keys for Writing an Outstanding Story. So I suck at plot. I can't write plot to save my life. And so I'm hoping that this book will like kind of help me in a similar sense that Save the Cat helped me. And then the other one is The Art of Character, Creating Memorable Characters for Fiction, Film, and TV by David Corbett. I know David Corbett is like a really popular, powerful writer guy. I don't know what he does, but he's a big person. And a lot of people have recommended this online. And it's also just like a pretty book. Like I wanted to own it because it's pretty. And so I think my like biggest things that I want to work on going into this next novel is plot, like knowing my plot at the beginning, and also like understanding my characters better on the front end rather than the back end. So I don't know if these will actually help, if they're actually good. Maybe I'll like talk about them when I read them, but I am excited and I need to read them soon. So there are some books that there are a lot of books I don't own that I like need to read by the end of the year. This is not an extensive list. I really want to read The People in the Trees by Hanya Yanagihara because we have a new Hanya book coming out next year, and like I feel like I need to read the backlog before I read the new one. I do want to read All the Light We Cannot See because I obviously loved Cloud Cuckoo Land, and I know a lot of people loved All the Light We Cannot See. And it's set during my favorite historical time period, so I feel like I would like it a lot. I do want to read some Olive Blake, Alone with You in the Ether, and One for My Enemy for sure. Maybe even Masters of Death, some of her other stuff. And then the last one that I really need to read that I'm hoping to read next month is the second Fence novelization. I don't know if you've read Fence by C.S. Picot, but like I read the first novelization by Sarah Reese Brennan this month, and it was a whole thing. I have a whole review of it. You should read it. But I'm excited to get to read the second one because my whole just came in from the library. So there's a lot of books I need to read. I have like a very long list on Goodreads if you're interested. But yeah, that's the mid-year book freakout tag. I will keep you guys updated as I read more books this year. And I will be making like an actual favorites video at the end of the year. So do not fear, it will come. But yeah, in the meantime, if you want to keep up with me, definitely support me on Patreon, just because that's where everything is. That's where I keep all of my information. I do writing updates over there as well. So if you're interested in hearing about my book, that is the first place you should go. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for sticking around in this shit show of a year, life, whatever. Hopefully the second half of the year is better than the first half. But until then, please let me know in the comments the books that you're reading, your favorites, disappointments. If you have books that you think I need to read in the second half of the year, that would be really great to share. It's been a very good reading year this year. I'm super excited to get to talk about my favorites at the end of the year. So yeah.